So this is actually a very special episode of Geek Nights. So we talked about it on Thursday, but suffice it to say, the episode got messed up due to a crazy timing issue between the sound card and the Wasapi drivers and whatever. So super corrupted audio. This was very close to being a lost episode of Geek Nights. In the 10 years and 1,100 or so episodes we've done, we've lost maybe 4 or 5 episodes total, but if any of you do entertainment, let me tell you, it is really, really fucking hard to redo an hour of banter that you've just done on the same topic. However, thanks to Tracy for doing a wonderful job of helping me write a script that would remove the null samples from the messed up, corrupted audio, and then following up an audition with a bunch of filters, I was able to unlose this episode. The quality is not the typical Geek Nights quality, so if you listen to the following episode and it does not sound as silky smooth as I do right now, this is the only episode of Geek Nights that will ever sound like this. We have since put in place measures to make sure that this sort of thing can never happen again. So this episode, which was lost forever, has been recovered, and you can now listen to it. This is something that, but for technology and perseverance, would never have been heard by any human in the entire world, except myself and Scott. So stay tuned for future episodes that will sound good again, and if you think this episode sounds bad, this is as good as it could have been made given the technology we have today. And without further ado, it's Tuesday, June 23rd, 2015. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Night. Tonight we're talking about one of the newer Wolfenstein games, because Scott played it, but he didn't seem to remember which one he played. So we'll see what the show's about.
Let's do this.
Because I tried to play the game that he told me to play, which you said...
Yeah, you've tried to play it this morning before work?
No, yesterday. So yesterday, it was Wolfenstein New Orders, the one you said you played.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, whatever. I bought it because I own every game on Steam. I just don't play them. Right. So I right-clicked on it yesterday, and I was like, install. And then it was like, can't. And I'm like, oh, and I back up, and then I look, and I'm like, oh, right. It's a modern AAA game. It's like 40 gigabytes of shit.
Right.
So I put it on my fast SSD that I use for the few games I play that matter to me, and just, I figure that game would like the performance of that drive. And then I just forgot about it. And then that night, I thought, all right, I'll play this game now for a few hours, and then I'll be good to go. And then I look, and it's 80% installed. And I said, well, I went to bed.
Wait till the last second.
Yep. Well, but we only decided to do the show 2 days ago. So, to be fair.
We could have done it on something else. We can still change it right now and stop
recording. We could still change it right now.
To what?
I don't know. Mazda?
No, I didn't know you played Mazda 1.
Oh, no, I've never played Mother 1.
Well.
I can talk a lot about Advance Wars.
Great.
But yeah, so what I've been working on instead is actually, if you might have noticed, my YouTube channel and Scott's YouTube channel have both been rocking, because Scott's been doing the streaming, and I've been rapidly working through our massive archive of old footage we didn't do anything with. So panels from PAX South, Expo Hall from PAX South, that video about race walking from the panel from PAX South, where we should all have a race walking, where there's some super butter race walker in my YouTube comments getting increasingly angry at my dismissal of her entire world, apparently. So you can follow that in my YouTube comments, because that's the only place this little adventure will exist. So I guess in terms of gaming news,
there's only one news that we care about that is big enough that we should... Well, I guess there's all this Nintendo E3 news, but I really don't care.
Yeah, or
until that shit comes out, it's like, whatever.
There's a lot of E3 news that I'm interested in the sense of that's a game I'll play, but there's nothing I'll say that you're not going to read on whatever blog aggregator is going to tell you. Oh, this game came out. I don't know any more than you do. I know everything that people who are at E3 know, and you also know all of that. I don't have anything new to add.
But in the world of board gaming, there was a huge to-do.
So, Wil Wheaton's show, Tabletop, which, to be honest, is kind of shitty.
Well, it's also kind of a big deal, despite being kind of shitty, right? The production value is high, and it has the famous nerds, famous among nerds, people are on there promoting tabletop games. And it's
a show where they, play tabletop games together. That's a perfect storm of awesome, right?
And the target audience is people who aren't who are nerdy, but maybe aren't into super tabletop games as much, right? It's not for, competitive board game. It's not for us, right? It's for people who don't know about tabletop games, or maybe you're only into them a little bit because they're kind of nerdy. But
I heard there's a game where you can have, skeletons running around.
Right, you're in the nerd community, you know who these people are, you maybe played Settlers once or twice, and now these people are going to introduce you to all kinds of good, other games, and, that's not a bad, it's a good thing for that to exist, and for those people to want to promote tabletop games with, no relatively little compensation for doing so, simply because they want to promote tabletop gaming as a thing, that's good.
Yeah, however, the problem is, which isn't the biggest problem in the world in and of itself, but they pretty much always get the rules wrong.
Well, specifically, they got the rules wrong a little bit the first season. I think in the first season, they were playing games that they knew and loved. So they knew the rules better because those are games that they
even
played.
Then, they were still making some mistakes.
Yes, they were still making mistakes. And season 2, which is the one that they kickstarted, which means that people paid for it, they got the rules wrong a lot. And in the Kingdom Builders episode, they got it way wrong. Big time wrong.
Now, that could have been the news in and of itself. That could have been us doing our typical, the grognard. this movie is about hacking,
now,
and yet it's cool kids skateboarding.
I wouldn't even known about this if it weren't for the Streisand effect of Wil Wheaton coming out and saying something about this. And
I'm gonna quote Wil Wheaton. I'm gonna paraphrase what he said right now.
Well, he said,
I'm actually a dick, and I'm throwing my friend under a bus.
Right, so, he admitted that they fucked up the rules, which is good. He at least said that he's taking responsibility, which is, I guess, correct. You should say that. 2, well, whatever. I'm not going to number this. He said that, yes, it's a problem that they got the rules wrong, and it's an even bigger problem because he messed up these episodes that people paid for that were kickstarted, right? So he recognized that was bad, and that he's going to fix it if they ever make any more, which is good. But most of the post he made, he was pretty much blaming it on this one producer. And he basically says, yeah, I gave this one producer the job of learning the rules to all the games, and that producer fucked it up. I trusted them. They messed it up. It's whoa, you just said you're taking responsibility. You can't say you take responsibility in the same paragraph that you blame someone else. That's not how that works. I can't say, yes, I take full responsibility for Rim totally fucking up and breaking this whole podcast. I mean, you said the words taking responsibility, but you didn't actually do it.
Now, there's definitely a, Wheaton's Law is extra.
It's funny that it's called Wheaton's Law, don't be a dick, because here he is being a dick, and there are many people now who are coming out with their stories of him being a dick. Perhaps it should be called Wheaton's Law because he's a dick, and not because you shouldn't be like him, as opposed to you should be like him.
I am often a dick. I'm not gonna
I'm not claiming to obey Wheaton's Law, but Wheaton's Law isn't Scott's Law.
Exactly.
Is it? It isn't Scott's Law.
Rim's Law is be a dick a lot of the time.
Be a dick to the race walking person who deserves it.
Oh my God, that race walker is so funny.
Exactly.
So anyway. But there's a broader issue here.
There's a lot of issues that you can get out of this post.
So let's back up first to the broader issue, because we don't know if we're doing this lecture at PAX Prime, but we have a new lecture we've been working on called Learning Games, because this problem, pretend this wasn't tabletop. Pretend this was a guy and a bunch of his friends played a game, and then they realized they got the rules wrong.
Happens all the goddamn time.
It happens to us, and we're pros at this.
We're as pro as you can be.
And we fucked up.
As anyone can expect to be.
We fucked up the rules to Amun-Re for over a year, and then when we corrected them, we found out, a couple months later, we were still fucking them up. So this happens to everyone, but it's endemic in tabletop gaming because it's always the same story. Nobody wants to learn the rules to a new game.
Nobody wants to read the rules because it sucks. B, the people who write the rules fuck up at writing them.
Yup.
C, people, even if they do read the rules, fuck up at reading them.
And then 4, nobody questions the rules effectively in the course of learning or playing the game.
If you learn the rules from someone else, because you're the vast majority of people who doesn't want to read the rules, you just want someone to teach you the game, right? Like apparently Wil Wheaton is. He just wants this producer to, read the rules and teach it to him. You can 100% trust that person is telling you everything correctly, and any mistake they make is now passed on to a whole bunch more people, and then mistakes in, specifically in tabletop games, rules mistakes spread like wildfire.
Oh, so our entire friend group.
One person reads a rule book and 100 people learn it by, word of mouth. because apparently they want to go back to the Stone Age where you can only pass stories down
oral tradition,
verbally, or through oral tradition, and not through the magic of written.
Well, if you didn't go for writing
language
and you went for horses instead, then maybe I could understand that.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Oral tradition.
If there's horses in your starting area next to your settler, why would you build writing first? Are you fucking stupid? You can just steal the stone tablets from Gandhi next to you. He's got them. You can. If you have a horse, if you got a horse, his elephant ain't gonna catch up to you.
Yeah. But so, well, like, here's an example of that. Glory to Rome. Kind of a complex game to learn because it doesn't follow a lot of typical patterns of games.
True.
Our entire friend group, except us, like found the game, and a few of our friends found it first, taught everyone but us. Mm-hmm. Then we played it. We're like, oh, this is a pretty good game. And then after we played it once, I bought it, and I immediately took the rules and read them cover to cover. I went back to our
something that most people do not do. They'll buy a board game and throw the rules out.
And then I could probably find the forum post where I told all our friends, guys, you've been playing this game 100% wrong. What the fuck?
Yep.
So the problem, and we see it in D&D too, in a different sense of like, once someone's the dungeon master, they're the dungeon master forever. But every gaming group in tabletop has the rules bitch, the person who actually knows the rules to all the games, and ends up having this like annoying duty of every game you play ends up being a teaching game where you are 100% responsible. Because if I teach a bunch of people like at a table at a con a game and I mess up a rule, I ruin the experience for them, and they're gonna blame me for their bad experience.
Right. Well, if someone teaches me a game, I always ask for the rule book and start checking what they're saying. Right? Always. Me or Rim. You'll see whenever anyone teaches like our group a game, either me or Rim will have the instruction book.
One of us is listening.
No one else can be trusted.
One of us is listening. One of us is reading. And even if like Rim is doing the reading, I'm basically constantly like, hey Rim, check that. Hey Rim, is this right? I'm asking him the questions because he's got the rule book. I'm not asking the questions to the person teaching the game. Yep.
I'm asking Rim holding the rule book. Hey, check on this.
Now,
hey, what if this happens?
There is an easy solution, but it involves if you care about tabletop games. It's
right, so that's the obvious question that comes up. It's like Wil Wheaton and other people on Tabletop and all board gamers in general. If you like board games so much, why don't you like reading the rules?
Now, maybe we answered that question before. Board games today, especially American board games and especially Kickstarted board games, have the worst written rules.
Even Netrunner, the game that I play more than any other game, has so many rules writing problems on the cards. It is like the number one problem with that game. It is heinous. A guy came. Here's a story, right? This guy comes to the Netrunner meetup. He had been playing Netrunner alone, with his friend, I guess, right? He hadn't really played with people in the public anymore.
He hadn't been to the Capitol yet.
He hadn't been to tournaments or anything like that. He works at the New York Public Library. He was a totally cool dude. He comes to our Netrunner meetup. He's like, hey, I found your meetup. Want to play some Netrunner? I'm like, that is the best thing ever. Come and play Netrunner with me. So I played Netrunner with him.
Yeah.
And then he puts a card on another card, and immediately I see he's trying to do something very clever. Very clever indeed. And if it had worked and was not against the rules, it would have been quite strong. However, I also immediately recognized, oh crap, that if you read the text on those two cards, the way they interact,
it makes sense.
Any reasonable human being with a grasp of the English language would assume that the thing that he was doing would be a perfectly acceptable and legal play. But me, because I am engaged in the online community and the competitive community, and I read the FAQ and I read Twitter and I read all these things, knew that the thing that he was about to do was against the rules. And I was like, I was basically like apologizing to him. Like it was like I was the bad guy in giving him the bad news that like, sorry, that doesn't work. And your entire deck concept doesn't work because you got the rule wrong. It's the people who make the game's fault.
But imagine if
they suck that badly.
Think about the people who don't read the rule books and talk to other people in these situations where the rule books are not great.
Yep.
Then and we run into this often, especially when we play Kickstarted games, where two intelligent humans will read a rule book cover to cover who understand games and disagree about how the game works. And unless there's a canonical answer, like the game designer says, this is the way, the game is fucked.
Yeah, go back and listen to our ancient review of Hellas.
Hellas, oh my god.
The game with the rules that were not answered on Board Game Geek in a proper fashion. So even though you should never have to go online, because apparently like most people don't. Like the guy at the Netrunner meetup, he didn't go online to find the rules. He only checked the FAQ after I said something to him.
Yep.
And then discovered that I was right.
Now it's not like this is impossible, especially like German games that were released, like Puerto Rico, Tigris and Euphrates. Like there was a bunch of games that came out within a span of time that they basically are written as best you can write rules. They should be like an RFC. Rules should be very explicit and very clear in their language.
There should be no
ambiguity
ambiguity whatsoever.
Do this, may not do this, must do this after doing this.
And there should be no scenario or combination. There should be no game state which is unexplained or undefined, right? Unlike, say, the C programming language, there are certain undefined
and sometimes
states.
what does that lead to?
For a board game, there should be
leads
none.
to an exception and then a crash. Like,
Right.
board games can crash.
Yep.
Ellis crashed, and we had to stop playing.
Yep.
We did a stack trace to try to figure out.
So, there's so much going on in this news. We could make it the only news, right? Why do people not want to read rule books? Why are people bad at reading rule books? Why are they bad at writing them?
So if we do that panel of
why is
PAX,
Wil Wheaton a dick?
Yep.
Why? It's like there's so much going on
So
here.
another aspect of it is that in terms of people teaching games or wanting to play games, we found this phenomenon a lot, even with a lot of our friends. We know people who love board games and will play the fuck out of them.
The storm is here.
But there's a huge thunderstorm going on.
It went from nothing to in about a fraction of a minute.
So on Sunday, right, me and Emily were out biking. We're going to go to Radagast and have like salsas dinner.
Okay.
And there's it's sunny and clear. And then in the distance, we see this thin thunderstorm. Mm-hmm. So we're like, okay, so we're biking. And then suddenly Emily says, is that a wall of rain fast approaching us? And sure enough, there was a wall of rain, thick to the point that buildings were disappearing in front of us. It was like a magic spell coming to our doom.
Yep.
And it hit us like a brick. It was amazing. Anyway, so completely forgot my whatever. All right, so people don't like the process of learning games, but
people don't like to learn. People try to avoid learning. That's why they don't use Vim. They don't want to learn something, even though it's better once you learn it.
And part of that, I think, is that most people who teach games, like
they're anti-intellectual. If you don't like
even
learning,
if let's say it's like
person.
us, like we learn the games, so we take the time.
I don't want to bike with gears, then have to learn how to use them.
But we learn the games.
I don't like learning.
And we teach the games, even though I don't necessarily want to be, because I know that if I teach someone and they learn the game from me, they're going to play it right, unless it's Amon Ray, and then it'll be good. And I've just kind of spread the right, there's a lot of reasons why I do this. The same reason your friend who hates DMing is always your dungeon master.
Because it'll be a shitty game if you do it.
But most people teaching board games do a terrible job of it, even if they do know the rules. So there's a whole separate discussion, even beyond everything, of, well, how do you teach rules?
You're bad at teaching, bad at reading, bad at writing, bad at everything having to do with the rules.
And there's multiple, actually I was on a panel at PAX last year with, I think, Donna Pryor and Luke Crane, everyone, we were talking about that. And some people, learning, people learn different ways. Some people learn better where you play the game once and say, look, this is a teaching game. We'll just play. I'll explain each rule as it comes up. But then everyone has to understand that, because you didn't learn the game fully before you played it, your strategy might literally ruin you, and you have to expect the fact that you're going to lose horribly. A lot of people...
Luke Crane should not be talking about writing rules properly because he'll put the same rule in his book 3 different places.
Crook slightly slow in every place.
Crook slightly slow each time, worded a slightly different way.
The biggest ambiguity in his rules that bothers me a lot is there's a situation in Dwarven Greed that says one thing that leaves an ambiguity. Most people interpret that ambiguity one way, then gives an example that gives a categorical number for the thing that was ambiguous. That is the opposite of what most people interpret the rule to be because they forget about that sentence that was an example. Mm-hmm. But I digress. I love you, Luke. If you want to hire me, I'll rewrite Burning Wheel. I'll edit Burning Wheel's rules.
You'll hate it because Rim will put Oxford commas in.
I would be willing to leave the Oxford comma out. However, it would double my fee. Because there's some suffering that would go on. That's hard. That's a very difficult thing you ask of me. So outside of all that, Tabletop is a great idea for a show, but no one's making it except these guys.
Well, production value is very high.
Yeah.
And they have famous people.
They do.
I feel like without the famous people, it doesn't work because then how do you attract in the nerds who aren't into tabletops a whole bunch already?
Yep. Oh, well, the problem is if you make the show that is more for the tabletop people who are good at and care about tabletop, those people are already in, so you're not really getting them into more.
Right. It's a different audience. That would be,
That audience is more like, I'm going to watch a bunch of people be funny and I'm going to learn this game.
Right. The only way to do it without famous people would be to have people who are just really likable characters, either acting or actually likable people, so that people could identify with them and
So why don't we write the show
and
we'll get Dave and Joel to play us in the show?
Let's not do that.
But I was thinking about this a lot, and I kind of want to I don't want to do the whole production value thing, but I feel like we could just do 2-player games. So Scott and I have enough equipment to fully deck that out with pretty high production values if it's only 2 players.
Great.
And I feel like we should just try to make this show with a slightly different format, because I realized the format that they need to avoid this rules problem is, one, everyone in the show is going to have to read all the rules or have a rules coach.
All right, so that's the other thing I wanted to talk about, the last thing I wanted to talk about that I didn't, right? Where the solutions to this problem, it's like, whoa, okay, so you didn't want to read the rules. First of all, you should read the rules.
Yep.
Right? Second of all, You had this one producer read the rules for you, the person you threw under the bus.
Nobody else at any point?
It's like if I'm doing a show and I'm they're a big fucking deal, right? Famous people.
Yeah, Wil Wheaton could have asked.
You could get the designer of the game to come when you record. You can get a representative from the publisher of the game to come when you record the show. You can go on Board Game Geek and find a nerd who lives locally. And even if that nerd is not suitable for television, you could have that nerd consult from off screen and who's an expert at the game you have me playing. And I guarantee that rules lawyer nerd, they will make sure that you get every rule correct, Mr. Wheaton. Right?
Yep.
No, you cannot roll that dice over there. It's not the time yet.
In fact, you make it a shtick, like Pee-wee's Playhouse, where someone's about to make a wrong move.
You don't even you can just edit that part out. You don't even need to see the nerd. Finally, you could have just somebody watch your episode before you upload it and make it public on YouTube, because it's not a live show, not live at all. And they could say, hey, you got these rules wrong here. And then you could put notes in the episode or edit the episode to conceal the parts where you got the rules wrong.
Even the notes would be fine.
You could dub over it and get the rules right.
The format I would use is actually a little more subtle. I'd have the teaching section that I could upload separately that's also part of the episode, where it's like the gaming group that's in the show learning the game, like being taught it, however that is. And then the part of the show, or the show, like part 2, where they're playing it, maybe someone starts to mess up a rule, and that's part of the interaction. Like, oh, Scott, you're fucking that up right there.
Maybe.
Or, oh, guys, we messed this up. Because shows like this also, by plowing through and ignoring rules ambiguities, because when normal gamers play a game, there's always that moment where everyone
stops, you got to check the rules, and we're all sitting around going,
Or you're all playing, and Scott's doing his turn, and then I just say, hey, Pete, can I see the rule book? And Scott's like, why do you want to see the rule book? I just want to see the rule book. I just want to look at something. Just keep taking your turn. I'm just looking. Oh, no, you can't attack me in Umbria.
Actually, I can. You can't stop me.
But make that part of the show. Either script it, like if there's a commonly messed up rule, you script it where Felicia or someone messes up that part of the rule, and then you guys fix it in game. There are some games that Puerto Rico has a rule where if you fuck up the ship, there's a rule for what to do. In Fury of Dracula, if you fuck up Dracula, there's a rule you follow to fix it.
Yep.
Make that part of the show, because the reality is rules fuck ups.
That's what actual tabletop gaming is like when you're playing a game for the first time.
Yeah, or even 4 years after you start playing a game, even when you're a pro, Amon-Ray. If any of you are playing Amon-Ray, let me know, and I'll make sure because I'll bet you're messing these rules up too.
Yeah, make sure you give the gods the correct sacrifice.
You don't get goodies from the gods if you also steal from the temple. And the extra farmers can go fucking anywhere. Yep. Anywhere.
Even where there isn't a farm. They can go in, what's the place with no farms? Dakla?
Dakla.
They can go to Dakla.
Yeah, suddenly Dakla is pretty awesome if you got 3 of those things in your hand. Bam, bam, bam. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah,
well, 1 per turn.
That's fine.
Yep. There's a couple other rules that we also were, but anyway. So yeah, people should try to make this show better maybe, or will just, I don't know. This is really easy for you to fix for your show. And
if you ever make any more.
Yeah, but you kind of...
Also, I'm surprised to find out their show wasn't publisher, game developer sponsored. They were just picking games they wanted and being funded by Kickstarter money. Hey, game publishers, send us a copy of your game and also some money, and I will produce a show playing your game.
Yeah.
But my review will be 100% honest. If your game is garbage, I'm going to say so deal with it.
Yeah, we'll even do a whole tabletop-y kind of episode thing.
If you want me to say your game is amazing, no matter even how garbage it is,
give us enough to retire.
Give me enough money to go to the beach and not come back.
So we're here in Monaco on our 8th week of vacation playing Munchkin now.
Why would I be playing Munchkin? Oh, playing Munchkin?
Yeah.
Watching the Grand Prix.
Munchkin
from our yacht
is the Grand Prix of games. I highly recommend it, just like I recommend this caviar and the champagne.
Yes, if you see, whoa, Kimi's coming out the tunnel. Oh. What level are you in the Munchkin? I don't know, 3, whatever.
So yeah, there's a lot more to be said, but most of it will involve, hopefully will be us in a panel at either PAX or somewhere else if we decide to do this one instead of the other one on sports. Things of the day. This is a YouTube video that it asks a question where the answer is not obvious.
I don't know the answer yet.
And you might even think, oh, duh, but then when you think about it, it doesn't make sense. And then it goes beyond that. So the question is, and it's a Vsauce episode. These guys are good. Why do we have 2 nostrils as opposed to 1 big one?
Right. Wouldn't there at some point in the history of genetics, there would have been some genetic variation to where some creature had 1 nostril? And why did that 1 nostriled creature somehow have a disadvantage at life and, surviving compared to the 2 nostriled creatures that resulted in every creature that has a nose having 2 nostrils.
Now, the guess I had was it's like a screen door to keep bigger things from getting into it, like a big bug.
No, that's what the hairs are for.
Yeah, but also, like, I get this one, like, line down the middle. 2, I wondered if it was something around the nose, like if something covers your face and blocks it up, because you got the little ridge that kind of sticks out past
maybe
the
something
flares.
gets stuck in one nostril, you can survive with the other one.
Yep. But the answer is not what you think. And then it answers another question that you probably didn't realize you had until just now. You ever notice how sometimes one of your nostrils seems like it's way more open and flowing than the other one?
Yes.
That's all the time. You always have one primary or fast and one secondary or slow nostril, and your body shifts stuff to change which one it is at different times during the day.
Fucking body. Why don't you just keep both of them fast all the time?
Yeah, you know what? The answer to that is kind of amazing.
I should just get a surgery to make that happen.
No, you'd be fucked if that happened.
Why?
Because you wouldn't be able to smell some things anymore.
What?
The slow nostril smells different things from the fast nostril.
What the fuck?
This video blew my mind in 9 minutes and 22 seconds, so I now know why we have 2 nostrils.
Are you sure this is true?
Yes, actually.
This YouTube video can be trusted?
So right now, my left one's slow, my right one's fast.
Same.
Yep. This video is amazing. Also, Vsauce is amazing, so you should just follow them.
All right, so I was going to use another thing of the day, but there was this better thing of the day, so the other one's going to wait. So I'm sure maybe some people have seen this, but I've seen a lot of the old original Japanese TV commercials for Famicom games that were made back in the day, like the live-action Zelda one and whatnot. Apparently, there was a TV commercial for Mother, also known as the original Earthbound, right? Well, Earthbound -1, I guess, if you're in the right, because Earthbound was Mother 2 for the SNES. This is Earthbound for the NES, or Mother for the NES. The original TV commercial in Japan. Oh my God, this commercial. It's short, but holy shit, that's a fucking commercial right there.
I know that
Goddamn.
it is perfectly accurate to the game, despite displaying no gameplay footage whatsoever.
It's like any game that had that commercial, how could you not buy? How could you not buy?
It'd be interesting. 3D model the actors in that, and then make a remake of the game where it looks like that the whole time.
You don't need that.
That would be...
Anyway.
This commercial is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
In the meta moment, the book is the first of all those Wheel of Time books, which I'm like 12 chapters in now.
All right, you're about as far as me.
They made it over the river.
Oh, okay.
The big river. In the ferry? Did you get the ferry boat? Am I already past you?
Maybe.
Did a dragon thing attack them?
A dragon thing. No, troll dudes.
Did they... Oh, yeah, which time?
They burned the village down.
Okay, I'm quite a bit past that.
Okay. I haven't read it in a while because I've been busy.
The village is a distant memory, and they just fucked some
I'm at the part where they're about to leave the village.
Okay, they are long past the village.
I figured that's going to happen.
Yeah. You know what?
It's a fantasy novel?
It's a fantasy novel.
Is that what I said?
It's exactly what you said, and now when I was trying to prod you for more, but I don't know what else I could say.
Yeah.
It's a fantasy novel.
It's a fantasy novel.
What I find interesting is that it has the same pace as Dumas in The Count of Monte Cristo.
Okay.
In that, the action, like the writing, the words, like things that happen per page is constant, and it never zooms out, it never zooms in, it never speeds up, it never slows down, it never fucking skips anything.
That's true.
And I'm not saying that's bad.
You Mr. Dumas lover over
Nor am I saying that's good. But this is a fantasy novel.
This is a fantasy novel.
And it is better than most fantasy novels. I will already give it that.
Well, you don't get to be ultra famous without being complete garbage.
I'm starting to see why some of our friends who were really into these books when they were younger are the way they are today, if this was their formative fantasy book, and why I'm the way I am today, because my formative fantasy after Lord of the Rings Hobbit was...
Forgotten Realms?
Yeah, pretty much all the, like, Elaine Cunningham, Elfie, Forgotten Realms.
You're saying that of all the nerd media someone consumes, the fantasy novels they consume define them the most?
In terms of their fantasy and role-playing taste, I think. I'll bet you could predict what classes people play in D&D when they're in their 20s based on the first 10 fantasy books they read. That would be a study I would like to see. Yeah. Anyway. Otherwise, we uploaded a ton of videos of stuff that I'll link to. Our Bad Games panel is up on YouTube, and very, very soon, I will have uploaded... Remember we did that walkthrough, like PAX Prime Expo Hall Live as an experiment, and it was pretty good. You know,
yeah, people seem
like
to
we
like that
fucked
for
up a bunch
whatever
of stuff because we just kind of made it and it was fine. So this is our second attempt from PAX South because that's how far behind I am in video. But it's about twice as good as that old one. So continuous improvement. Scott's got video of the Netrunner Championships he was just at.
Yep.
And otherwise, we're going to be at Kineticon in a few weeks. in Hartford, Connecticut.
Very soon.
And like we've said,
if you are a nerdy person of any kind, which you are because you're listening to this, if you are within driving distance of Connecticut, Hartford, Connecticut, you should be at Kineticon. If you're farther away, maybe not worth it unless you're really rich and got nothing better to do.
Like I would say, we'll fly to like PAX Australia and PAX South from here. You don't necessarily need to do all those same things.
Only flying to PAX Australia if I can go to the Coral Reef this time.
Yeah. Maybe we'll take turns. Maybe I'll skip it. You go to this one. And then Geeknights has been to every PAX since 2008.
I'll go to the Coral Reef without you.
Yeah. Because the worst thing is I'm going to be in Australia.
You want to buy me an underwater camera thingy or just bring GoPro?
I'm going to be in PAX Australia.
If I went to the Coral Reef, I'd probably buy the newer. I'm waiting. The new GoPro should be out like later this year. I guess it'll be GoPro 5.
Yeah. I'm glad I held out because I haven't used mine that much except skiing, really.
I use mine for biking, but yeah, I mean, the one I have now only does 1080p 30. The current one, I think, does 4K.
It does some crazy shit. The thing is, forget the 4K.
The newer one's got to do 4K 60, right?
No, you stay down at like the 720 180p, but then you have the ridiculous frame rate.
You don't need the ridiculous frame rate.
For skiing, ridiculous frame rate
means you can do the slow mos, but I don't need the ridiculous frame rate for the fishies.
No, not for the fishies.
I want to see the fishies in 4K.
Huh? Yeah, for the fishies, I'd use the 4K.
4K fishies.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Plus high frame rate, low light. Anyway.
Okay, so during the Steam sale, which just happened, there are many games available, and one of them was Wolfenstein: The New Order. Also, Wolfenstein: The Old Blood, which I guess is some sort of extra game. So they're basically newer, I guess, remakes of, not remakes at all, actually, just new Wolfenstein games. Because there's the original Wolfenstein, the 2D. Then there's Wolfenstein,
which was made before we were born.
And there's Wolfenstein 3D, the real first Wolfenstein. Freundleben, that one, right?
Yep.
Then there was those ones sort of in the Quake 3 era that I think they were actually using the Quake 3 engine. And no, I didn't really care about those at all. And now there's these new ones. And I was just sort of in the mood for a single-player FPS. Like, I just want to walk around and shoot guys, whatevs. Hey, Wolfenstein, I like Wolfenstein 3D. I wonder how much Wolfenstein is in this Wolfenstein. And I can tell you there's a lot more Wolfenstein in it than there was in those Quake 3 era ones. But basically, it's a single-player FPS. And, it's super AAA Gennaro in terms of its structure, right? It's like, do some stuff, watch an FMV. Do some stuff, watch an FMV. Plot, plot, plot. Shoot, shoot, shoot. The shooting isn't that particularly exciting, right? It's not like there's anything special about the shooting part. So
what game is it most like? Because honestly, the last AAA
every FPS that's Gennaro.
So Iron Sights?
Sort of, right? I mean, some of the weapons have different sights, but yeah, I mean, it's like when you right click to, because I love default controls, you right click to, aim. If the gun has iron sights, the gun will come up, but it's right in the middle of the screen. So it's not like, it's not like, it's not like, the iron sight part matters really. Plus when you're not, when you're not holding the gun up to aim, there's on-screen sights. It's not only iron sights. There's, it's like Counter-Strike.
So,
right?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. The last single-player AAA first-person game that I played all the way through was Deus Ex Human Revolution.
So Deus Ex, I wasn't into that game.
I'm super into that game.
But I can tell you the shooting part of that game is a million times superior to the shooting part of the Wolfenstein game. Because it wasn't Gennaro, right? You could actually do stuff in that.
Yep.
You had different aspects of shooting. This is just literally walk around, shoot some guys. I beat every area using my basic strategy, which is find cover, hide behind that cover, picking guys off until there are no more guys. Move only when there are no more guys. Go and find the remaining guys if there are any and eliminate them. And I did that every single part of the game, and it worked.
It's kind of a shame. Was there any, tactics to the shooting, or was it just...
No, the shooting was the most boring. I mean, it was like I got what I wanted, which was go around shooting guys. But there was nothing particularly exciting about the shooting part, other than you could, if a grenade was thrown at you, if you could aim at the grenade and push E, you could throw the grenade back, which is kind of cool. That was like their clever mechanic, or just throw a grenade back. You could do some stealthiness if you wanted. It was kind of easy to do. You can get up behind a guy and middle click to sort of kill him with a knife quietly, or use the silenced pistol to kill a guy quietly. And there were certain areas where clearly they wanted you to do that, and you could do it, to get away with, progressing a little more quickly instead of, attracting the attention of every Nazi in the area.
Nah. So in terms of, because the Wolfenstein 3D, when I think of Wolfenstein, I always think about its explore a maze, and the shooting and everything is kind of ancillary to that.
So the shooting wasn't ancillary in this one, but there were a lot, they really did try to make it a lot like Wolfenstein 3D in ways such as there are a lot of secrets to find, right? You can really go through every area looking for secrets, and secret areas and all that kind of stuff, just like the original Wolfenstein 3D. And that part, I like that part because some of the secrets are pretty well hidden. Vents and things you could destroy, and a little bit of platforming, a little bit of puzzling here and there.
It's hard to sell me on vent-based gameplay if I played Deus Ex, because Deus Ex is the vent game.
This has the same amount of vents that an FPS is expected.
Okay, it's not like the Deus Ex of there is guaranteed to be a vent everywhere.
No, not at all. But it wasn't very maze-like. It's pretty much go, figure out how to get to the next area, right? Kind of stuff. It wasn't. You didn't have to search. But I guess Wolfenstein 3D, even though it was a maze, we were just also going ahead, right? Get the key, open the door, go to the next area, whatnot. So whatever.
Yeah.
The things that stood about this game were the plot had some positive aspects, but was mostly a ridiculous, stereotypical AAA game plot that was so groan-inducing.
Oh, no.
Right? So you have the good parts of the plot where that basically it tries to explain the ridiculousness that was present in Wolfenstein 3D. Like, why is there a ridiculous Nazi in a robot suit? And why are there a ridiculous Nazi Frankenstein? And
no, in a way, that's sort of retcon. Like Adventure Time does that. Like, hey, what was the deal with that thing way back in Season 1?
Right, so basically the story here is basically the story of Captain America. BJ Blazkowicz.
Yeah, my dude.
He basically...
he has his own Wikipedia article.
Yeah, he takes some damage, basically. And is holed up in an asylum for a long-ass time until from the 40s all the way to the 60s. And then in the 60s, the Nazis come and shut down the asylum, and he wakes up from his vegetative state and is BJ Blazkowicz again. But the Nazis have won, and they have all sorts of ridiculous technologies, including, I'm going to spoil the fuck out of this because who gives a shit, right?
Yep, so that's fine.
Including Nazi moon base that you go to in one of the last levels.
That's kind of expected.
Right? And after he escapes, at the beginning of the game, the plot is actually sort of reasonable and based in,
They should have made it on Mars, and then they could have made it be a UAC facility, and then it turns out that UAC was just a Nazi science program and linked it to Doom, but they
could have.
If you're going to go crazy, that's the only advice I have. I'll let you continue. Yeah. If you're going to go crazy, just go all the way crazy.
They did go all the way.
Metal
They
Gear.
went all the way crazy. Basically, you hook up with the Resistance again after, right?
All right. On the
as
moon.
soon as you hook up with the Resistance, shit is insane because the Resistance is the most ridiculous band of characters that only someone who likes AAA game plots could love. You've got the ex-Nazi who's taking care of the giant dude with brain damage who's still a child in his, at heart and has toys in his room. And, the tough old lady who's in a wheelchair because her legs are smashed up, who's in charge of things. And your girlfriend who's the smart girl who you escaped from the asylum with. She was the nurse who took care of you when you were a vegetable. And, the crazy math girl who's, totally insane. And you choose one of two people to rescue at the beginning of the game, and the Nazis kill the other one. So you can either go with the English-Scottish friend guy who's a veteran, or the young, promising Private Wyatt. I chose the old dude, and then there's a scene where he's you should have picked Private Wyatt. And it's oh, come on, bro, whatever. If I choose you, I looked it up online, right? If I choose you, I get health upgrades throughout the game. Private Wyatt doesn't do jack. Yeah.
Really?
The game is only slightly different based on that choice. The ending is basically the same goddamn thing.
Yeah, well, the endings, even Deus Ex, the end was literally, here are 4 buttons.
Right, and then they try to explain where all the Nazi technology comes from. Basically, there was a group of Jews called Dat Yehud who developed all the secret technology simply for the sake of it because, inventing things is their religion, and they keep all the secret technology hidden away. And you rescue, basically, one of the Jews who's the old Jewish guy from Independence Day, basically, from a concentration camp. And he hooks you up with the crazy technology of awesomeness.
Oh, see, also Doom Guy. Doom Guy also has his own Wikipedia.
Right,
anyway.
and it's just, the plot is so crazy. It's just oh my god, really? It's every time, the more crazier the plot got, I was just and then, so there's all these gratuitous sex scenes between you and the girl you escaped from the asylum with that were unnecessary. And there's gratuitous violence scenes for no reason. And it's just and then it's they get to a point where it's everything is chapter-based. So you'll go on a mission, it's go to the prison, you bust everyone out. Then you'll be back at the base of normal people doing some fetch quests inside your base. Fetch quests in an FPS. Then you go out on another mission, and then some more fetch quests back at the base. And then another mission, and then fetch quests back at the base. And then after the second to last mission, the base is destroyed. Mission in the base. It's the Nazis are in your base, shoot them, right? It's The base is on fire.
Fetch quests were played out in about 1992.
Yeah, it's like find the secret places in the base where you can find the items and learn about the people in the base. It's like, I don't give a shit. Just I want to shoot Nazis.
Yeah.
So I guess if you like, stereotypical FPS plots that are really bad, and you don't find that groan-inducing, I guess a Patrick Rothfuss level of plot here. Right.
Wait. So there's a bunch of girls that I could date, but I won't.
No, there's the one girl that you
me.
basically have sex with immediately, and then have sex with again, and whatever.
Can I choose not to have sex?
You can't.
That's great. That's a shame.
Yeah.
I'm really, really feeling great about that 48 gigabyte download that I could just delete now.
I mean, and then you shoot a bunch of Nazis with the same weapons.
You said the shooting's not. I could just play Deus Ex Human Revolution and pretend the enemies are Nazis, and I'll feel just as good.
So I started that. Then I just started playing the other one because I paid for it, right? Why not? Shoot some more Nazis. Wolfenstein: The Old Blood.
Yep.
So Wolfenstein: The Old Blood actually takes place in the past, not in the future. Before it's a prequel, and so far it's much better because there's less ridiculous plot, way less ridiculous plot. It's pretty much like, well, the Nazis are winning this war. Go to Castle Wolfenstein and find this secret code or something. It's like, all right, and it's just level 1, chapter 1 picks off where chapter 2 left off. There isn't this disjointedness of going back to base and having a completely different chapter that's, so separated. It's pretty much just one big long mission in a big Nazi castle. I just saved the game after I opened the front gate, and I'm going in.
That's maybe we'll play that one first instead.
Yeah, I mean, you really don't need to play the second one to understand the actual first one to understand the prequel. Right?
Maybe what I should actually do is just play Doom 2 again, but in a second monitor, watch Inglourious Bastards.
I guess you could do that.
I guess it sounds like
Wolfenstein 3D.
It sounds like I need 2 punctuated pornography scenes on a third monitor to fully replicate the experience.
Yeah. What else? There's one more thing I say about this game is that there's one thing that it uses over and over and over again, and it's not quite a jump scare. It's maybe a subset of jump scare, right?
All right.
Even the Old Blood keeps reusing the same thing. The same sort of trope happens like 100 times in these games, which
could be fine. Like in Doom, the trope is, oh shit, the lights go out and you're surrounded by monsters.
The trope worked the first time, and after that, the second time they did it, it's like, oh, I guess that's a trope, and then they kept doing it over and over and over again. And it's basically, for example, you'll see a vent, and you'll be like, well, that's the place to go. You'll climb up into the vent, and there's it's like one of the Nazi characters in there and grabs you, right? And it's like, oh, I guess it's cutscene time, right? You've been captured by Nazis. And it's like you'll be walking down a hallway, and it's like you'll have to open a door. So it's like you'll open the door, and then the big Nazi comes out and grabs you. Or
see that happened once in Metal Gear, and it was fine.
Right? It's like there was a part where it's like, well, I guess I have to do the speedy run jump to get over this broken catwalk, and you get to the other side, and around the corner comes a giant Nazi robot that grabs you. And it's like you just keep getting captured, like by things that come around corners, out of vents, or whatever, to sort of end the section that you're in and take you into the next cutscene plot part where you're captured by Nazis or something. And this happens like a zillion fucking times.
I guess it just reminds us why
so many times.
The number of FPSs in particular, there are a lot of them, like AAA FPSs. Very few of them do anything interesting or have any serious craft put into them. At least from a game design perspective.
It's like Half-Life 2 came out more than 10 years ago. We were in college.
Might be the best ever still.
Right, it's like, why aren't you, you haven't learned any of the lessons from Half-Life 2, have you? Half-Life 2 had no cutscenes. Everything was in the game engine at all times. There's no reason your game should not be doing that. They didn't stop and have a chapter, right? Gordon Freeman is going from place to place to place. There's never any question of how did he get from there to there or anything like that. It's like literally, it's 100% from beginning to end. Every step Gordon Freeman takes is a step you take, right? It's like, if I'm making an FPS, I'm starting at Half-Life 2 and progressing from there, not progressing backwards, right? To an older time before Half-Life 2 existed. Why would I do that?
Unless you're going to that older time to then take an element that was dropped and focus on it, like Serious Sam did for that Doom-style gameplay.
Right, of course. But that's not what this is.
That's not what this is.
This is a single-player plot FPS. You should at least do everything Half-Life 2 does and more. You shouldn't be doing the cutscene nonsense and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it's surprising, though, how much Wolfenstein feel they were able to get into this game. It's like there's a lot of homage to the old Wolfenstein.
I can dig that.
And there's even a part where you go to bed, and then you go to a nightmare, which is the first level of Wolfenstein 3D, but you're controlling it like it's the new game with the new weapons, but all the the map is, old Wolfenstein. The bad guys are old Wolfenstein, but you have the new weapons, the new character control, right? All the secrets are easy to find because when you walk up next to a wall that has a secret, the little thing highlights up that says press E. That's nice.
Mega Man.
I didn't want to bother finding the stupid secrets. I mean, I knew where they were in that level, right? In the second one, I got to the part where you play the next level of Wolfenstein 3D, which is great.
You remember the Wolfenstein levels in Doom 2?
Yeah, at the end with Commander Keen.
Yep.
And the Cyber Demon or whatever.
Yep.
Anyway, the one other thing about this game is, how in Half-Life 2 there's a gravity gun, which is sort of like there's always that one weapon that's not just a shooting weapon.
Yep.
In this one, it's the laser craftwork. So at one point, you find a laser cutter, and you can use the laser cutter to sort of cut open fences and cut chains and things like that to progress and get into secret areas.
All right.
You have to recharge it by finding things on the wall that are basically power recharging stations, and you press E, and it recharges the laser cutter. Eventually, you find the laser craftwork, which is like a super laser cutter that can cut even open better things, right? Thicker things, including certain...
It can pick up the darker rocks.
Right, exactly. It can cut open crates you couldn't just smash open and whatnot. It can open secrets you couldn't just... It's also actually useful as a weapon. It has 2 modes. You can switch between weapon mode and cutting mode. And then you find all these upgrades for it, like a scope and like a auto shot and all these upgrades for it. So it gets crazy powerful. But when you use the scope method, it can like target multiple enemies at once. You fire once and it shoots all of them at one shot with like perfect aim. But then it uses all its energy in like one go. But it's useful because if you run out of ammo for all the other guns, you can always use the laser craftwork.
Well, just like the bug gun in Half-Life.
Right. And when you fight like the giant robot near the end of the game, you have to use the laser craftwork to mess with it, right, and whatnot. So, because you're going to run out of ammo if you try to shoot it with your other weapons. So there's some interesting things going on with that mechanic. It's not as good as the gravity gun, but I imagine it was a lot easier for them to program. And I guess it's more Nazi-themed, laser craftwork. So if you want to shoot some Nazis, maybe find some secrets, you're in the mood to shoot some AI-controlled dudes, this game was way cheap during the Steam sale. But if you...
It's not cheap anymore, so I wouldn't buy it necessarily
now. I got it for a ridiculous cheap Steam sale price.
Yeah, wait for it to be on sale again.
Right, it will be. And if you don't like a single-player FPS, if you're bothered by a really bad plot with really wacky characters and nonsense, then you probably shouldn't. Maybe that you only want the plot with nonsense. You can probably watch it on YouTube, right? I guess there's also these collectibles, like find all the Enigma codes and find all the golden bits.
I care about that to a negative degree in all games.
The only other mechanic I haven't talked about is the perk mechanic, which is like the way to level up.
Is it like Deus Ex?
I don't know what Deus Ex is like, but it's basically...
So you get like an upgrade point, and then you have like a bunch of different areas you can spend it that have like trees.
It's not like that. So, for example, it'll be like, oh, you want the knife upgrade, huh? To where you can hold more throwing knives? Well, get this achievement of kill X guys with throwing knives. And then it'll unlock the hold more throwing knives. And then it'll unlock more achievements you can accomplish, which will unlock more upgrades. I basically completely ignored them and had no problems beating the game whatsoever.
That's fine. Maybe I'll just try it on a harder difficulty.
Yeah. I mean, I played on Bring 'Em On. The only things above that are Hurt Me Plenty. Or I guess Hurt Me Plenty's after that, right? And then Uber?
Uber.
There's I Am Death Incarnate, and then they added Uber after that. Yeah, I played Bring 'Em On.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night. We could have done it on something else. We can still change it right now and stop recording.
We could still change it right now.
To what?
I don't know. Mazda?
No, I didn't. You played Mazda 1?
Oh, no, I've never played Mother 1.
Well.
I can talk a lot about Advance Wars.
Great.
But yeah, so what I've been working on instead is actually, if you might have noticed, my YouTube channel and Scott's YouTube channel have both been rocking because Scott's been doing the streaming, and I've been vastly, rapidly working through our massive archive of old footage we didn't do anything with. So panels from PAX South, Expo Hall from PAX South, that video about race walking from the panel from PAX South, where we should all have a race walking, where there's some super butter race walker in my YouTube comments getting increasingly angry at my dismissal of her entire world, apparently. So you can follow that in my YouTube comments, because that's the only place this little adventure will exist. So I guess in terms of gaming news,
there's only one news that we care about that is big enough that we should. Well, I guess there's all this Nintendo E3 news, but I really don't care.
Yeah, or like
until that shit comes out, it's like whatever.
There's a lot of E3 news that I'm interested in the sense of that's a game I'll play, but there's nothing I'll say that you're not going to read on whatever like blog aggregator is going to tell you. Like, oh, this game came out. I don't know any more than you do. I know everything that people who are at E3 know, and you also know all of that. I don't have anything new to add.
But in the world of board gaming, there was a huge to-do.
So, Wil Wheaton's show, Tabletop, which, to be honest, is kind of shit.
Wil Wheaton coming out and saying something about this. And
I'm gonna quote Wil Wheaton. I'm gonna paraphrase what he said right now.
Well, he said,
I'm actually a dick, and I'm throwing my friend under a bus.
Right. So, he admitted that they fucked up the rules, which is good. He at least said that he's taking responsibility, which is, I guess, correct. You should say that. 2, well, whatever. I'm not going to number this. He said that, yes, it's a problem that they got the rules wrong, and it's an even bigger problem because he messed up these episodes that people paid for that were kickstarted, right? So he recognized that was bad, and that he's going to fix it if they ever make any more, which is good. But most of the post he made, he was pretty much blaming it on this one producer. And he basically says, yeah, I gave this one producer the job of learning the rules to all the games, and that producer fucked it up. I trusted them. They messed it up. It's like, whoa, you just said you're taking responsibility. You can't say you take responsibility in the same paragraph that you blame someone else. That's not how that works. I can't say, yes, I take full responsibility for Rim totally fucking up and breaking this whole podcast. I mean, you said the words taking responsibility, but you didn't actually do it.
Now, there's definitely Wheaton's Law is extra.
It's funny that it's called Wheaton's Law, don't be a dick, because here he is being a dick, and there are many people now who are coming out with their stories of him being a dick. Perhaps it should be called Wheaton's Law because he's a dick and not because you shouldn't be like him, as opposed to you should be like him.
I am often a dick. I'm not gonna
I'm not claiming to obey Wheaton's Law, but Wheaton's Law isn't Scott's Law,
exactly.
Is it? It isn't Scott's Law.
Rim City.
Well, it's also kind of a big deal, despite being kind of shitty, right? The production value is high, and it has the famous nerds, famous among nerds people are on there promoting tabletop games. And it's
a show where they, play tabletop games together. That's a perfect storm of awesome, right?
And the target audience is people who aren't who are nerdy, but maybe aren't into super tabletop games as much, right? It's not for, competitive board game. It's not for us, right? It's for people who don't know about tabletop games, or maybe you're only into them a little bit because they're kind of nerdy. But
I heard there's a game where you can have, skeletons running around.
Right, you're in the nerd community, you know who these people are, you maybe played Settlers once or twice, and now these people are going to introduce you to all kinds of good, other games, and, that's not a bad, it's a good thing for that to exist, and for those people to want to promote tabletop games with, no relatively little compensation for doing so, simply because they want to promote tabletop gaming as a thing, that's good.
Yeah, however, the problem is, which isn't the biggest problem in the world in and of itself, but they pretty much always get the rules wrong.
Well, specifically, they got the rules wrong a little bit the first season. I think in the first season, they were playing games that they knew and loved. So they knew the rules better because those are games that they
even
played.
Then, they were still making some mistakes.
Yes, they were still making mistakes. And season 2, which is the one that they kickstarted, which means that people paid for it, they got the rules wrong a lot. And in the Kingdom Builders episode, they got it way wrong. Big time wrong.
Now, that could have been the news in and of itself. That could have been us doing our typical, the grognard. This movie is about hacking,
now,
and yet it's cool kids skateboarding.
I wouldn't have even known about this if it weren't for the Streisand effect.
Will sound good again, and if you think this episode sounds bad, this is as good as it could have been made given the technology we have today. And without further ado, it's Tuesday, June 23rd, 2015. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight we're talking about one of the newer Wolfenstein games, because Scott played it, but he didn't seem to remember which one he played. So we'll see what the show's about. Let's do this. because I tried to play the game that he told me to play, which you said.
Yeah, you've tried to play it this morning before work?
No, yesterday. So yesterday, it was Wolfenstein New Orders, the one you said you played.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, whatever. I'll just, I bought it because I own every game on Steam. I just don't play them.
Right.
So I right-clicked on it yesterday, and I was like, install. And then it was like, can't. And I'm like, oh, and I back up, and then I look, and I'm like, oh, right. It's a modern AAA game. It's like 40 gigabytes of shit.
Right.
So I put it on my fast SSD that I use for the few games I play that matter to me, and just I figure that game would like the performance of that drive. And then I just forgot about it. And then that night I thought, all right, I'll play this game now for a few hours, and then I'll be good to go. And then I look, and it's 80% installed, and I said, well, I went to bed.
Wait till the last second.
Yep. Well, but we only decided to do the show 2 days ago, so to be fair. So this is actually a very special episode of Geeknights. So we talked about it on Thursday, but suffice it to say, the episode got messed up due to a crazy timing issue between the sound card and the Wasapi drivers and whatever. So super corrupted audio. This was very close to being a lost episode of Geeknights. In the 10 years and 1,100 or so episodes we've done, we've lost maybe 4 or 5 episodes total, but if any of you do entertainment, let me tell you, it is really, really fucking hard to redo an hour of banter that you've just done on the same topic. However, thanks to Tracy for doing a wonderful job of helping me write a script that would remove the null samples from the messed up, corrupted audio, and then following up an audition with a bunch of filters, I was able to unlose this episode. The quality is not the typical Geeknights quality, so if you listen to the following episode and it does not sound as silky smooth as I do right now, this is the only episode of Geeknights that will ever sound like this. We have since put in place measures to make sure that this sort of thing can never happen again. So this episode, which was lost forever, has been recovered, and you can now listen to it. This is something that, but for technology and perseverance, would never have been heard by any human in the entire world, except myself and Scott. So stay tuned for future episodes that